Hey everyone, it's Thomas again, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In case you haven't figured it out from watching my YouTube channel, since I was a little kid, I was always the nerd in school. I hated sports growing up, couldn't stand it. I was always like reading books and stuff like that. And that was me. So I think the only thing that I really didn't do was play video games and stuff as a kid. Uh, or um that but other than that, I was a stereotypical nerd. Uh, so there are a lot of stereotypes about it's like growing up like that, and so like I'll give seven things. So I've got seven things for you today that you probably didn't know um, about about ner about nerds from when you who were in, about nerds. So anyway, again, none of no two people are exactly the same. This is just like mostly me from my experience growing up like that. and and this is just an attempt to break some stereotypes. Younger generations is the same thing. Not entirely sure. A lot of things that were considered purely nerd culture, from when I was a kid, have gone mainstream now. So, like, say, superheroes and video games are something that pretty much everyone enjoys right these days. But yeah, so anyway, seven things that you probably didn't know about being a nerd. So, number one, we hated school too. I hated, loathed, despised with every form of being every day going to school. I begged to not have to go anymore. I honestly found it a waste of time because, look, I love learning, but I wasn't learning in school. It was like I basically found it like, with some exceptions, a glorified daycare, and I tried to pay attention. But I noticed that I would go to school, I'd come home, watch documentary for like an hour on the History Channel, and I realized, hey, I learned more watching that one documentary that I have in the past week of going to school. Um, and also, my gosh, like I always wondered why people thought history was boring until I took it in school. Like, like, uh, but if you're in school right now and you're watching this, you find it boring. If you're one of those high school jocks who's not academically inclined, mark my words, those of us who are probably just as bored as you are. Like their story, like how do you make, especially with history, how do you make something that deals with like battles, the most badass people of all time, and suck all the fun about it, make it like so dull. I don't understand how you do it. But yeah, we nerds hated school too. We found it boring. Two, we often have to hide what we know. So if you're watching this and you're and you were the jock growing up, you probably got to show off and got like until picture like maybe some pictures on social media, or like when you score the winning shot at the basketball game, or when you the winning kick at a karate match or something like that. Uh, I'm not sure how it is with you, but like growing up, I was told to keep my mouth shut about the stuff I knew because it would upset. Because a lot of the stuff I knew was either a some of it was kind of disturbing to some people, or people would think I was strange or intimidated. And it's like it's a huge basically growing up as a nerd. Uh, Basically 90% of my personality I had to keep hidden almost all the time. Uh, all the time I was told I had to do that if I wanted to have friends or if I wanted anyone to just not be hated, basically. And that's how I was raised. And even today it's still something I'm careful of, and I won't lie. It's not exactly completely bad advice. Like I still talk about I go to university. I talk about books I've read in class for the textbook with other students. Talk, oh, well, you've read this in the textbook, and like, well, I haven't read the textbook, and I still link away from you. Uh, it's kind of it can be very depressing. Um, it can be extremely it's seemingly depressing, which leads to number three. We can often feel like a different species. Like I remember watching Big Bang Theory. Uh, Big Bang Theory and Young Sheldon. I actually thought it was there's certainly some stereotypes that aren't totally accurate, but yeah, it's not totally inaccurate. You do for when it comes to different personalities among nerds from nerds or anything like that. But yeah, like I remember Sheldon. He said, "How'd you like? I want to speak to Stephen Hawking. Why?" He said, "Because like everyone else is like a lower species than me, and I can't speak with them. I can only speak to Stephen Hawking because I can understand and comprehend me. Everyone else is like speaking to a dog. Like, I know that sounds very insulting, and it's not intended that way, but uh, uh, that like I'll be entirely honest. Like, it's if you think you're insulted, imagine to actually it's like have to feel that way. It's incredibly lonely, and you just want to chat with someone who you don't feel completely weird around, or like it's like you weird around all the time. It's you do feel like a different species simply by what you know, like, and you can't relate to anyone, and like it's frustrating, and it is lonely, insanely frustrating. That's why I think it's a stereotype about nerds being introverts. I know certainly I was and am. That's kind of why it's like not that I don't like anyone, not that I think everyone is worthless or anything like that, but like, and actually, by the way, some people who just, I'll be honest with you, this is one thing I want to make about. I want to make a video about experiences like the high school jock growing up. They're not all dumb. They can listen, but a lot of the time, I do feel like if I want to have a conversation about something that I'm interested in, with history, even now, still, all these years, after all these years, it feel like it's almost impossible. I feel like it's almost impossible. It's like if you were into sports in school growing up, let me put it like this. Let's say you're into boxing. Let's say you were into basketball. Okay. Imagine you're the best basketball player, the best martial artist, best wrestler, whatever it was, in say the entire school. And you know it. And you're great at it. Uh no one else in the school plays basketball. No one else in school does wrestling matches. And if you even bring it up, people shy away from you and walk away. That's what it's like all the time. That was like for me growing up. It's wasn't really all that fun. So number four, it's probably best that we don't have a. It's probably best that I was an introvert. High school jocks. You think how competitive they are, and maybe the nerds would be more accepting of it if sports were so competitive. Uh, yeah, my experience, nerds, the nerds in high school and middle school, elementary school, for me, when I did find them, were often way more competitive than um than any of the high school jocks growing up. Uh, yeah, like they will absolutely. Yeah, I got people who were smarter than me who absolutely did. I don't just mean I was like different higher level than me, but I have met some of them who were who absolutely think and act like that they were better than everyone else if they had a few had a few points higher grade points than someone, and there is no really team mentality among them at all. It's like a lot of because these are a bunch. Remember, we're a lot of people who 99.9% of the time it's just us, and it becomes your whole identity. And so being on top is something you guard and defend very, very, very jealously. Uh, and that's probably just like my thinking of it. It's like, um, now I will also say that I also know people who are, interestingly enough, the people who are like the super smartest of them all are also tend to be the ones who have the hardest time interacting with people. Uh, those ones are, in my opinion, are the ones that are the least competitive. Interestingly enough, um, like I remember one high school teacher I had. Uh, if he's watching this, hey, Mr. Cody. Let me see. two PhDs, former member of the Cypriot army, has been to Greece and Jerusalem, has rung the bell in the Church of Holy Sepulchre. Let the students call him Mr. Hedgie. Uh, not Mr. Hitchster Cody. And other teachers in the school tried to correct you, saying it's not even Mr. Hitchster, it's Mr. Hitchster, not Mr. Hedgie, it's Mr. Chester Cody. And it's not even Mr. Hitchster Cody, it's Dr. Hitchster Cody, technically speaking. Not even Mr. It's twice. Other teachers would insist on trying to get the students to call him that. He said, nah, like Mr. Hedgie. I know one guy who, my friends think I'm smart. I know one guy who's got like I have a friend who's like way deeper than me, way more intelligent than me. Uh, he just likes chatting, and he can go on and on and on, and he's brilliant and fascinating to listen to. But like he yeah, he's not really all that competitive in my experience. He could probably blow you out of he would probably blow you out of the water with he's probably got more intelligence in his pinky than everyone's in his entire high school had growing up. Uh uh, Including the teachers. But yeah, it's I find that among the really strongest people who are the strongest nerds and the most intellect, more smarter you are. Interestingly enough, the really high end, like out there, intelligent people are not competitive. Like maybe because like there's attitudes like, hey, I know I'm smarter than pretty much 99% of the human race anyway. That's good enough for me. I just want to have someone to talk to at this point and just share what I know, discuss it. And yeah, uh, okay, okay. Uh, that leads to number five. We have different personalities. Like, there's a stereotype of like. It's one thing I do not like about The Big Bang Theory. I like this. I love the show. I love watching the show. Um, I found it interesting how they portrayed Sheldon as an atheist because atheist smart, skeptical, inquisitive. I've met among the people who are more nerds. I met atheists. I met people who are more like more more deistic philosophy. Actually, the only person who ever met actually who skipped two grades, who I was friends with, was a extremely committed evangelical Christian. Uh, like as far like beliefs, personality, uh, among nerds, we like there's a bit of a subculture, sure, but like it can be extremely diverse about who we are, what we believe, what we value, what our interests are to some extent. Like some extent, yeah. Um, yeah. Now for one of the more okay, number six. Uh, a lot of nerds we're more likely to be depressed. Like I have known people when I was in high school. I heard about like another school. Oh, this guy got this award from the top student. Year later, he had to pull out of university. They had to pull out of university because they burnt out and crashed, or had a bit of had some mental health issues with depression. Yeah, like we're more likely but people who are smart and really into studying things are more likely to be depressed, statistically speaking. Like I know I've struggled with depression for years. Like basically, so okay. I'm writing this in 2022. I'm making this in 2022. Pandemic stress. Imagine having that your entire life, every single day, no 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 intermission ever. Not feel like it, not 2 years of it, whole life, and have to go through it all the time. That's what it's like, quite frankly. Um, Pandemic only you don't have anyone else to join you in it to who really understands. You're pretty well completely alone in it. That's what it's like to be. That can be it'd be like to be us. That's because uh, we are often like when you're smart, know these things, you see problems coming before everyone else does. You see the solution coming before everyone else does. And more often than not, you are powerless to anything beyond helplessly stand by and cry. It is frustrating. It's in some ways like it's a question. I have a friend like from my high school who I'm in touch with. He was a nerd. Um, he's a nerd. I asked him this. I actually had asked him if you could go back, get rid of, and you could do high school over again, but you wouldn't have your same intellect. You would be like more the high school jock, more the popular, stereotypical popular uh, kid in high school, but you wouldn't have, and you wouldn't have your knowledge anymore. What would you choose if you could do it all over again? Uh, he and I both chose to keep who we are, but it was largely because it's so much of a part of identity that we couldn't comprehend ourselves as anything else. We love who we are as people. That being said, we both admitted it's like a double-edged sword. You overthink everything all the time. You dealing with all the world's problems all at once. Sometimes you can solve them in your own head. You can't do anything, and it is extremely painful, extremely frustrating to see problems ahead of everyone else. So, like, while people are dealing with like the current problems of today, I am mentally also dealing with problems that are happening like 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the road. I figured out solutions to them, ways to prevent them, 10 different scenarios for to prevent them. I can't do anything about it. Uh, it's painful. It's extremely mentally draining. So there are definitely downsides and drawbacks to that personality. Number seven, seven. Uh, so as you can get imagine, being a nerd can be pretty lonely. Not as bad as you might think. Like I was a loner growing up as a kid. I decided the main thing I'll say this. I don't want to put this. Loneliness isn't as big a problem for nerds if they embrace it. Like remember Big Bang Theory. Sheldon completely he pretty for the most part completely he embraces his how unique he is, and that, even if it means he doesn't have a lot of friends. And there can be certain peace in that. Like if you just accept, well, you have all these struggles, it's who you are. Hey, I'm gonna start having friends. I'm gonna have struggle socially being awkward. But I but hey but hey I like the stuff I know. It's fascinating. I remember watching Young Sheldon one time. His mother was talking about his mother work, how he doesn't have any friends, and he said, and young Sheldon said, "Actually, Mom, I like being alone. I when I was alone, I got to figure out all these wonders of the universe and contemplate them, think about how they worked and all that. And that is what it is like. If you're not totally at peace with being alone, it can be torture. I remember when I did try to start making friends, I was I was lonelier when I had friends in school than when I didn't. If that makes any sense. Like not saying like if you're my friend from back then and you're watching this, like not saying I don't appreciate our friendship or anything like that. I trust me, I did, and I do still even now. Um, but at the same, but but at the same time, like you become more aware of your lack of strengths in this regard, and it is frustrating. So anyway, I said this would be seven. I just thought of one, number eight, and this is something that I really discovered later on. And this may actually be some good advice for like if you're a this if you're like a if you're still in school, maybe this is I can do this now because like I'm older and more mature, or anything something like that, and because people who I'm doing this with are much more mature and comfortable in who they are as people. There's this old stereotype of jocks and nerds hating on each other and pulling each other, tearing each other down. Total lie. Not real in my experience. Like, look, my look. there's this now. Like I'll say this. My greatest growing up, my greatest resentment towards the high school jocks was that they got to publicly do their amazing thing in front of the whole school, and everyone was wow, wow over it. Meanwhile, I had to keep my mouth shut. Didn't resent that they got to do it. Actually, when I was in high school, my mother maybe senior year got into like athletics and stuff, and I won the top awards for it because like some of the people who were the high school jocks were completely nice. I wouldn't say it's as so bad as that they would met the stereotype of the mean high school jock, but sometimes I would mouth off or be a bit sort of a bit on the egotistical side. So as a result, because athletics were more about being all well rounded, I got the award, which is something I'll be honest with you. Um, when I got one of those awards, I put took the I put some tape over the name, my name on the award, wrote in over the tape the name of the person I thought should have gotten that award and hung it up. Because I think that's fair. They were a better athlete than me. Full stop. I think that was fair. I so that's not really the only real resentment between the two of them. But like right now, I got friends I'm dealing with online. Got in touch after after a few years of being out of touch from elementary school. He was the high school jock. I was the nerd. We get we get along just fine right now, and we have two very different paths in life. Like he's more to like being he wants to be like a boxing coach and stuff like that. I'm more academic professor and we professor and stuff like that. That being said, uh, when we feel we're both comfortable in who we are, like and we can actually and once we respect once we accept, I find um once you find accept who you are, and once everyone accepts who they are as people and who they are, and that everyone other people also with different paths and interests have value and something to contribute as well, and you respect that, and you can eventually start appreciating the other people, even if like I will never find sports interesting. I always I always I will always ever find uh, the my friend's fascination with sports fascinating. Like I don't think my friend will ever I don't think he'll ever be as be willing to sit through 2 or 3 hour long classes reading pouring over the finer points of an ancient Sumerian document twice 2 or 3 times a week. He does appreciate the stuff I know and share about history, and he finds it fascinating, amusing, and entertaining. And sometimes our interests do cross paths. Like um, I always said this, like one of the things they should do to make I remember they wanted to make. I remember when I was in elementary school, they wanted to make it both the more nerdy kids and the jocks did like the same sort of thing that I both enjoy. So I tried to do like yoga because I thought, oh, it's not sports, but it's not that competitive. Yeah, like I'm speaking as a former nerdy kid. Gladiator combats for gym class. Do that. Yeah, like it's just historically accurate. I get to share my love in history, and hey, and it's athletic. I've actually always like making. I always like tease. I always like. I sometimes like think I like teasing my friend, my old high school jock friend, and I always tell him like high school the jocks in university and high school make excellent guinea pigs. I mean participants for for like history reenactments. Um, yeah, but yeah, like what I'm saying is that like there's a stereotype that like it's a myth that like people of different interests cannot get along. Like it's not so like we don't hang out because it's not because you hate each other. It's not no, I'm not saying you'll find each other interesting, especially when you're younger and all that stuff and trying to like set your own personalities and gather what you know. Um, but the idea that they can never get along, or that they're both going to bully each other or look down on each other in some way forever, and that's how it's always going to be, false. False. It takes a lot of maturity to do it, though. Yeah. Anyway, so that's like, kind of like a bonus eighth thing uh, about high school, about the high school nerds that you don't probably didn't know. So anyway, God bless you all and stay safe.